This is the compelling story of Sonia Poulton, a fearless journalist who sheds light on the dark side of the media. In this video, Sonia exposes hidden truths surrounding the Dunblane Massacre, a tragedy that shocked the world.
One of the things you spoke about, which is interesting to me because it's my hometown, well, not my hometown, but I'm very close to it, was the Dunblane shooting.
Oh dear.
From Thomas Hamilton,
Right.
1996, where 16 kids were killed.
Yes.
You spoke a lot of detail. There's more to that story
There is.
than first thought, and I was very intrigued with that.
Yeah.
Can you explain this?
Well, see, now this is where I consider myself incredibly blessed because I've built up a reputation for having integrity. I do have integrity. That's important to me. So people trust me. And I've had two young, actually three now, I think, who were all in classes with Thomas Hamilton. And they talk about how they were young boys at the time. Because he used to run like sports clubs and everything. Always did everything he could to be near young people. And he'd do things like, make them take off their top and run around like bouncing their little boys with their little nipples, and do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And he'd make comments on them and he'd do all that kind of stuff. So I've managed to gather a lot of quite rich information from people who were there. So Thomas Hamilton, what we knew about him was, and even the files that came out after the shooting anyway. So as you say, 16 children and their teacher killed. I think 15 were injured. He was also dead. He was somebody who had a huge interest in guns. The story of Thomas Hamilton has yet to be told. His files are sealed for 100 years. We know that he was highly likely that he was a paedophile. Certainly he had paedophilic interest, no doubt about that. But he was also, it would appear that he was very associated with people in like Scottish establishment, as well as the British establishment. And one of the military schools that he was associated with, well, Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, was the patron. For just one example, there was a great deal of rumours about involvements to do with Tony Blair. But Thomas Hamilton, the official story obviously is he went into Dunblane, lost his mind, killed these children and their teacher, turned the gun on himself. He did turn on the gun on himself, didn't he? Yeah, turned the gun on himself. And then, of course, what then happened is we then had the new gun laws. So Thomas Hamilton's act brought in the banning of handguns in the UK.
Through her investigation, she reveals shocking details that question what we were told by mainstream news. Sonia's courage in revealing these uncomfortable facts highlights the power of truth in journalism, even when it challenges established narratives.
Quite significant, eh?
Yeah.
And as I say, the file's sealed for 100 years. It's not uncommon for files to be sealed.
75 years.
Exactly. Now, that is the most common, and sometimes they get but they're not downgrading this. And so there is obviously the suggestion that we are talking about people in both the English and Scottish elite who are named in those files and who are being protected. In 100 years' time, we're not going to be
They'll
here,
be
are
dead
we?
anyway.
We're done. Yeah.
So why is that allowed to keep files for like 75 years, 100 years?
Well,
Is that a big major cover-up as well for...
It's not supposed to be. And actually, again, I always try and find, well, what would be their rationale for that? Rather than just look at it as being conspiratorial, try and find the rationale for it. Sometimes it does bear out. Now, sometimes there's information in these files which could compromise our national safety, individual safety of people. I understand all that. Makes absolute sense. But when you're talking about a situation like Thomas Hamilton, where the perpetrator is dead anyway, right? This is of national interest. We should all know exactly who he was associated with, because, look, I'm not saying that you can always judge a man or woman by who they're associated with, because I don't always think that birds of a feather flock together. Sometimes I could have a picture taken with somebody who I've only known 5 minutes, but that picture could go down. Everybody could say she's known that person forever and they're this. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's quite difficult. Sometimes you end up in the company of people who are unsavoury and you don't necessarily know that and you get caught out. But we are talking about a man whose actions not only blighted the lives and devastated the lives of children and families, but new laws were enacted because of him. This is serious. This impacts us all. We should know the details of it. So it's a curious situation, but I'm still receiving more information about that.
Her work shines a light on the uncomfortable realities of the media's influence, and its role in shaping public perception.
I think MK Ultra was into play there.
Well,
with
some
him.
people do say that. Some people do say that. And again, we should remember that that is a legitimate thing, you know, that the CIA used to use. And that is a legitimate program that has been used for many decades.
That's what
It's not impossible.
Barbara O'Hare again says they used that at Aston Hall. They used to use MK Ultra, where they controlling the mind and
Right.
telling the kids what to do, and they were forcing the kids to walk off cliffs.
Right. I mean, none of that surprises me. It doesn't surprise me, and I wish it did. I wish I said, get away with you. That's
Do you ever get scared at the stuff that... I'm not too deep into all this stuff because I'm going to be honest, I don't really know enough about it to be as honest.
Wise,
Do you know
though.
what I mean? It's I don't have all the information, but when you do start speaking, I do speak to a lot of people, but it's nothing's concrete for me.
right.
But the information that you do get, it does mind fuck you.
Yeah.
It becomes draining, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
do you know
does.
what I mean? To seeing all this information, and
It
people
does.
are so 95 X Factor on a Saturday night, bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But when we're hearing all the other stuff, like I've spoke to Barbara O'Hare, Stephen Smith, who was the boy in the cellar who also went through to Aston
Right.
Hall. Because I've got kids myself, and you think, fuck me, man, did this stuff
Yeah.
really go on?
Yeah.
It's scary. Are you a survivor yourself, Sonia?
Yes, I am. I
Yeah.
am. And, you know, when Mum died, a distant relative was allowed to get too close to me, and I was abused, and that was one of the reasons why I attempted suicide on 2 occasions. So my life was hell. And you notice when you asked me about that period, I kind of just went from 11 to 18.
You missed it, yeah, but I didn't want to touch on it because I didn't
Well,
want
no, I don't mind because
Yeah.
I'm completely open.
I wanted to touch on it because this is what drives you
Yes.
to get the answers.
Yes, it is.
Because maybe nobody fought your corner back then, so you
Yeah.
know what it's like to try and go down that route and get the answers. Is
Yeah.
that where you think you get your strength from?
I think I have a deep sense of injustice which rages through me, right? And I think that's for a number of reasons. One, yes, because I was abused, but not just that, because we were also seen as that sort of shameful family. So I carried shame anyway, you know, and we were impoverished. So I had all of these things. So it's like, I often say this is not a career, it's a calling. I think that I was crafted, right? I think we all are, but it's just whether you want to
Believe
be
it
in
or
tune
not.
or that or not. But I feel I was crafted, and I feel that everything that happened to me was completely relevant. Like there's nothing I'd change now. I wouldn't even change the abuse as much as it devastated me, and that contributed to my breakdown. But I wouldn't even change that now because it gives me such a layer of empathy towards people who have been down low without a voice.
It's a story about the pursuit of truth, even when it's uncomfortable or controversial. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more revealing content.